Preparation is often imagined as something modern. Stockpiling supplies, building emergency kits, and planning for uncertain futures. But, long before the word prepper became popular, millions of people during World War II were already practicing preparedness every single day. Civilians, soldiers, and entire governments had to adapt to shortages, uncertainty, and constant disruption. Supply lines were interrupted, food was rationed, and everyday life required careful planning. The people who navigated these challenges successfully did so by adopting practical habits that modern preppers can still learn from today. World War II was not just a military conflict, it was, in fact, one of the largest real-world survival tests in human history. One of the most important lessons from that era is the value of ration discipline. During the war, many countries introduced strict rationing systems. Items like sugar, butter, meat, and fuel were limited, and families had to stretch what little they received. People learned quickly that careless consumption could leave them without essentials before the next ration cycle arrived. Instead of using supplies freely, households planned meals carefully and conserved resources. Leftovers were reused, small portions were stretched, and waste became unacceptable. For modern preparedness, this lesson is simple but powerful. Stockpiling supplies is only part of the equation. Knowing how to make those supplies last is equally important. Another major lesson from the Second World War is, the importance of practical skills. During wartime shortages, people simply couldn't rely on shops to replace broken items or provide every necessity. So, as a result, everyday citizens became skilled at repairing, repurposing, and maintaining their belongings. Clothing was patched instead of discarded. Household items were repaired again and again. Tools were maintained carefully because, replacing them could take months or even years. This culture of repair created a generation that understood how to fix things rather than throw them away. Modern preppers can benefit greatly from this mindset. Learning basic repair skills, whether for tools, clothing, or equipment, can make a huge difference when resources are limited. Another valuable wartime lesson involves local resourcefulness. When imported goods became scarce during the war, communities turned to local resources. People grew vegetables in backyard gardens, community gardens, and small plots of land. These victory gardens, as they were often called, helped supplement rationed food supplies and gave families greater independence from disrupted supply chains. In some regions, these gardens produced a significant portion of the food consumed by civilians during the war. For modern preparedness, this idea remains extremely relevant. Producing even just a small portion of your own food increases resilience and reduces dependence on external systems. Another powerful lesson from the Second World War is, the importance of community cooperation. Survival during the war was rarely an individual effort. Neighbours shared resources, exchanged skills, and supported one another during difficult times. Communities, they organised food distribution, coordinated repairs, and really helped vulnerable individuals manage shortages. This spirit of cooperation, it strengthened resilience across entire neighbourhoods. In modern preparedness discussions, it's easy to focus solely on individual survival. But as history shows, strong communities are often more resilient than isolated individuals. Working with others, sharing knowledge, and building trustworthy relationships can really make a world of difference when it comes to surviving tough situations. Another important wartime habit, and one that folks often overlook, was careful planning and organisation. During the Second World War, both households and military planners, they had to think ahead constantly. They tracked supplies, planned their usage carefully, and did their best to avoid any unnecessary waste. Food, fuel, and other essential resources were often stored and managed with great attention, This habit of tracking and planning ensured that supplies lasted as long as possible, really. For modern preppers, organisation remains a critical skill. Simply having supplies is not enough, honestly. Knowing what you have, where it is stored, and how long it will last is essential for effective preparedness. World War II also demonstrated the importance of mental resilience. Life during wartime was filled with uncertainty. Air raids, shortages, and constant news from the front created enormous psychological pressure. Yet millions of people continued their daily routines, maintaining discipline and adapting to new challenges. This resilience came from focusing on what could be controlled: daily tasks, small goals, and practical preparation. Modern preparedness often emphasizes gear and supplies, but mental readiness is equally important. The ability to remain calm, focused, and adaptable during stressful situations can be one of the most valuable survival skills of all. Finally, WWII teaches an essential lesson about adaptation. Conditions during the war change constantly. Supply shortages, new regulations, and shifting circumstances force people to adjust quickly. Those who adapted were able to maintain stability despite uncertainty. Adaptability allowed families and communities to find new solutions when familiar systems failed. For modern preppers, this lesson may be the most important of all. No plan survives unchanged when circumstances shift. The ability to adjust strategies and improvise solutions is honestly a key part of real preparedness. In the end, the people who lived through World War II demonstrated that survival is not just about stockpiles or equipment. It's about habits, discipline, resourcefulness, cooperation, and, resilience. These everyday practices allowed millions of ordinary people to endure one of the most difficult periods in modern history. And today, those same lessons still offer valuable guidance for anyone preparing for an uncertain future.